The LMC casts a wide net over the Sound Shore to bring you local event info, profiles, and conversations. Recorded in the heart of the village in Mamaroneck Cinemas at the studio on the Avenue, LMC Media brings you the LMC Cast Community Profiles.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the LMC Cast, the show where community, conversation, and creativity all cross paths right here in the Sound Shore. I'm your host, Matt Sullivan, Executive Director of LMC Media, and today we've got a legend in the house, a guitarist who can bend a note so hard it changes the weather, a modern torchbearer for the blues and the man behind Blue on Black, Deja Voodoo, and a guitar tone you can identify from probably 3 towns over at least. Over his career, he's earned 5 Grammy nominations, multiple gold and platinum albums, 2 Billboard Music Awards, and 2 Blues Music Awards. And today we're going to talk about music, inspiration, life on the road, and what it means to keep the blues alive in 2025 and beyond. Please welcome to the LMC Cast, the one and only Mr. Kenny Wayne Shepherd. Kenny, welcome to the LMC Cast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure and honor to be here with a living legend. Kenny, I want to start off, we're obviously celebrating 30 years of Ledbetter Heights, released in 1995. You're an 18-year-old recording artist getting national and international fame. Tell me a little bit about how that shaped your career and how you got there.
Well, I mean, the story is an interesting one for sure. Like now that I'm a bit older, I have my own children who are like, I have an 18-year-old daughter. I have a 16-year-old son. I have these, kids that are experiencing life and these milestones of age that were significant points in my early life. And looking at the differences and being able to look back on my past and just really appreciate how unusual everything actually was. At the time, the bullet point version is that, I started playing guitar. I got my first electric guitar at age 7. I had little toy acoustic guitars before that, that I learned how to play some very simple things on, but really started getting serious at age 7 with an electric guitar. And, by the time I was 13, I was on stage. At 14, I did my first demo recordings. At 15, I put my band together. And at 16, I signed a major record contract. And then did my first album when I was 17, the last 3 months of my senior year in high school, graduated, turned 18, record came out, hit the road. And here we are 30 years later, celebrating the 30th anniversary of my debut record, Ledbetter Heights, which is really, between that and the second album, Trouble Is, those 2 albums really built this foundation, this incredible foundation that we have with our fan base that's been with us now for over 30 years worth of great music and amazing tours. And they're still excited about it. We're doing this tour where we're going to play the whole Ledbetter Heights album in its entirety, which we've never done before. We recorded a new version of the Ledbetter Heights album that's going to come out next year. So we kind of updated some of the songs and experimented with them a little bit, but didn't reinvent them. But, we're putting a new version of that out, and the fans are really excited. The tickets are already on sale for this tour, and a lot of them are selling incredibly fast. So my goal was to always make timeless music. I wanted to make music that people would listen to for decades and hopefully even after I'm gone. And here we are 30 years later, and people are still excited about this music.
Absolutely. Well, I'm certainly thrilled to see the show, and it's a testament to the work that you've done, your creativity, and your raw talent. You've cited Stevie Ray Vaughan, Muddy Waters, Albert King, among others who were influential in your work. Is there anyone that people don't know who influenced your style of playing?
I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I was just talking the other day. I've been writing some new songs for a new record. And also working with some other artists, and we were talking about all the different musical influences. It's like I always get the blues label because I love blues music. It is the core and the foundation of my music. It always starts with blues, and then we generally take it and try and mix it with another genre, usually like blues rock, right? Or contemporary blues, or however you want to put it. But I mean, I got Rock Song of the Year. You mentioned the Billboard Music Awards. Right. We got Rock Song of the Year with Blue on Black. So I've never been just a blues artist, but I do love playing the blues. But I grew up listening to so much more than just blues music. I mean, everything from my dad was in radio, so we heard everything. And it was music around the house 24/7. And so it was like everything from blues to rock to country to funk, gospel, soul music, and even my generation experienced the birth of rap and hip hop. So,
Right,
I grew up listening to a lot of that stuff too.
right.
And inevitably, all of that ends up finding its way into the music that I write and create at some point along the way.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that. I'm a huge Bruce Springsteen fan myself, and Bruce was sort of the vessel into all the music that I've listened to over the years because his influences and going back to doo-wop and some of the older music and the blues and country in his music. You have a lot of soul and some even Baptist music that's in there. It's interesting to see how all of these things blend together. Tell me a little bit about, you mentioned your father was in radio. Was that a pivotal moment in your life and that really shaped your love for music and the way that you played?
Well, the experience for sure, because I grew up in a musical household. I mean, he didn't play music, like he didn't play an instrument,
Right.
but he played music constantly as a disc jockey on the radio. And he was the program director. So he chose all the music that was played throughout the entire day, every day for the radio station. And so we grew up, me and my sisters, like going to every concert that came through town because those guys always get free tickets and they
Right,
get
right.
backstage passes to go meet the band and stuff. So I got to go backstage and see the behind the scenes of the touring industry. And I got to meet all these famous people, like even when I was really young because of my dad. And then I also was exposed to all this different kind of music. And he had a massive record collection and CD collection and that I just was able to dive into.
Right.
And that's how I cut my teeth and really taught myself how to play a lot of music was going through my dad's record collection. So all of that contributed greatly to the artist that I was going to become. And nobody knew it at the time, including me. I mean, I was just living my life and experiencing what I was experiencing. But looking back in retrospect, all of that led me to where I am today, for sure.
Well, you've written some pretty powerful songs, Blue on Black, True Lies, Slow Ride. Tell me a little bit about the process of how you approach music when you're writing a new song.
Well, every song's a little bit different. And generally, I would say the majority of my songs start with a musical idea that I've come up with. And then I like to co-write. I like to collaborate with people. I find that, I mean, making music is a team sport,
Right,
it's like
right.
nobody does it all by themselves
Yep.
generally. And I love working with other people and I love their creative input because it inevitably brings things out in me that I wouldn't have come out if I was doing it alone. So we'll get together in a room and plan on writing some music and a song, and I'll present, a couple of different ideas and we'll pick one and just start, honing in on it. And then the lyrics come and the melody comes. Sometimes it'll start with a song title or a lyric idea or something like that. But I would say the majority of my music starts with a musical idea first.
And is there, you have such a signature sound. Is there something that you would attribute to that sound? Is there a piece of equipment or a piece of technology that sort of has your brand on it?
I would say it's a very guitar player thing to say, but I would say it's the hands. It's like this is, you can get these guys like BB King or these people that have this immediately recognizable sound, which is what we all strive for, right?
Right.
But you can put BB King through any amplifier, through any guitar pedal, and really through any guitar, and he's going to sound like BB King.
Right.
And so that's really the core of it. This is the instruments that facilitate the ability for you to express your heart and soul through an instrument.
Right.
So this is kind of like the conduit.
Right.
And I think that's probably the most important piece of the puzzle. Otherwise, for me, it was just taking all the things that I loved about all the artists that inspired me, because I would sit and learn their music and I would learn how to play their songs. But inevitably, if you're going to progress, and especially if you want to become an artist, you have to learn how to take those things and then make them your own. And
Right.
so it's the evolution of like, okay, well, here's this lick that I love that BB King played, but how do I make it a tribute to BB King, but with Kenny Wayne Shepherd
Right.
infused in it? And
Right.
that's kind of the light bulb that goes off when you start to realize this is how I can begin to develop my own musical identity and still pay homage to the people that inspired me.
Right. Well, I mean, you've done an incredible job with that over the span of your career. You mentioned sort of like lyrics and then the musicality side of things, I think one of your strong points is that sort of blend between lyrics and the playing side. Can you tell me a little bit about that? How do your lyrics come together? Do you sort of approach the music side of it first in drafting that, and then the lyrics come after, or vice versa?
Generally, like I said before, it's usually the music comes first, then we start jumping into the lyrics. And like we've just been recently writing some new songs, and so I'm just always challenging myself and others who I'm working with to not take the easy path, and like not write the obvious song, but like
Right.
dig a little bit deeper and try and find something a little more, I don't know, something with a little more substance to it. I mean, a lot
Sure.
of my songs are about relationships and just life experience, which generally boils down to relationships. And I feel like I try not to write over people's heads. I want to make songs like easily relatable to the
Right.
listener. But at the same time, like, okay, if we're going to write another relationship song, let's dig into it a little more and make it a little bit more interesting
Mm.
than just the usual relationship story,
Right.
And so it's those kind of conversations that end up happening that help steer the direction of what we're actually going to write the song about.
Right. Right. So let's talk. You mentioned life on the road a little bit before, and getting sort of a peek behind the curtain growing up. What's an on tour, on the road story that maybe some of your fans haven't heard before?
I mean, there's a ton that my fans haven't heard before because a lot of that stuff, you just don't share. But nowadays, I mean, I'm, married. I have 6 kids. Everybody in my group pretty much is a family man. We
Yeah.
all are married or in relationships. So there's no partying or any crazy stuff that happens. I mean, the most exciting thing that's happened for us in recent memory is we brought Bobby Rush out on the
Mm.
road because I put out this blues record, which, by the way, just got nominated for a Grammy. So I'm
Congratulations.
6-time Grammy nominated. Kenny
That's
Wayne
amazing.
Shepherd.
Congrats.
Yeah, but so Bobby and I did this traditional blues record called Young Fashioned Ways. And we put it out in March, and then we took Bobby on the road with us. Now, Bobby Rush he just turned 92 years old.
Wow.
Like his
Amazing.
birthday was a couple of days ago. And he's incredible. He's not one of these guys, like people are always shocked when he tells them on stage how old he is, because he's so energetic and he has so much life and so much presence on stage. And it's kind of shocking when he tells you how old he is.
Right.
And so anyways, he's been around long enough to have seen it and heard it all and done it all. So he had a lot of great stories. Now, those are stories for him to tell, not for me to tell.
Right. Right.
But just a lot of incredible experiences that he shared with us of things, that he's done and seen and heard over the years. And so that's, the behind the scenes stuff for me this year that was really exciting all came from Bobby Rush.
Right. How do you balance? You mentioned you have your family, you have your job. How do you find that balance out on the road and doing your work?
Well, it's all about balance. And so what I did is as my wife and I, we got married and we started a family and we started having kids, and it became, okay, well, what's the new normal look like? And how do because I have a commitment to my fans and I have a commitment to my family.
Right.
And my goal is to not neglect either one of those. And obviously family's number one, but I can't back out of my commitment with my fans and my music. And so we had to figure out what's the right balance. How many days, how many weeks is too many weeks for me to be gone on the road?
Right.
And how many days and how many weeks is too much to be gone from doing my job
Right.
and playing music for the fans? And so we kind of figured that out through trial and error over some time. And we've come to the conclusion, my wife and I, that 5 weeks is really kind of like the absolute maximum, and we really try and avoid that. So like,
Sure.
what we'll do is we'll go out for a couple weeks here, come home for a couple of weeks, go out 3 weeks, come home for 1 week, rinse and repeat. We're always on the road. Every year we have a tour. But it's just, the goal is to not stay gone too long that it becomes too difficult on the children or my wife.
Right.
And the same with the career.
Right. Right. Well, it seems that you're doing a wonderful job at both, so I'm sure everyone appreciates that at home and on the road, and your fans. You're often called one of the artists that's keeping the blues alive for younger generations. Do you personally feel that responsibility? And if so, what does that mean?
Well, I've been asked that question almost my entire career. Ever since I blew up, people are like asking me, what do? I feel this sense of responsibility to keep blues going? And I mean, look, the reality is that we need to continue to expose new people to this music, and we need to continue to bring new people into the fold, if you will. Um, there's this interesting dynamic in the blues community where there's some really hardcore traditionalists that like they wouldn't even consider me a blues person,
Right.
even though I'm constantly referred to as a blues guitar player. Because what I do is too it's too contemporary, it's too controversial for
Hmm.
them. They expect blues to only be one way, sound one way, look one way, and like anything outside of that little box is just unacceptable.
Right.
They don't represent the majority of the blues fans. They're a part of the blues community, and the thing about that is like it's great to preserve um, the original form of blues music. But part of preserving that is all the wonderful recordings that we have of the forefathers and the
Hmm.
early creators of blues music. We have documented history and music that they created. It'll forever be preserved. And there will also always be artists that will come along that will be inspired to play blues in its original art form. But in order for it to continue growing and evolving, which then also keeps it relevant, it's necessary for people such as myself and these younger artists to come in and bring their own fresh approach to it,
Right.
so that it can continue to reach new people. And I think its evolution is also a key component to its relevancy in the future.
Sure.
And so that's always been my mission, is to continue to, expose people to the artists who inspired me in the first place to play music, and also, to continue infusing new interest and new ears and listeners into the genre.
That's great. Yeah, you've certainly done a wonderful job with that. And, I was sort of late into the music scene. My father-in-law, shout out to Michael Klein, in Germany, all the way over in Germany. But my father-in-law, Michael, he sort of opened up the door for me to get into guitar playing, just showing me one note, right? And that's all it took to develop a real taste for that. Is it ever too late for someone to get into playing music?
No, it's never too late. I mean, it's never too late to try anything that you might be feeling compelled to try. That's creative or fun or what have you. Especially music, because it doesn't require a lot of energy necessarily. You can just sit down with a guitar.
Right.
You don't have to be on stage running around and jumping off risers. Like Eddie Van Halen used to do. And you can just sit in a chair and play an acoustic guitar, and it can be very fulfilling just for
Sure.
yourself. And really, when I started playing music, that's really why I did it, was because it made me feel good. And I personally enjoyed doing it. I never sat down with my guitar when I was a kid and imagined how much money I might be able to make, or how famous I might be able to become, or what awards I might be able to win. I just sat down and played the instrument because I had a calling to do it, and it was incredibly satisfying to me. And it can be that way for anybody. And
Right.
I don't think it's ever too late to pick up an instrument and try it.
Well, that's great to hear, and I'm sure inspiring for many who are listening out there. Um, what advice would you have for young musicians? Obviously, the landscape has changed so much since you started your career, between streaming and AI, the introduction of AI into music. What, how have those changes impacted the industry, and what advice would you give to an aspiring musician today?
Well, there's a lot. I mean, I've been around long enough to have witnessed a lot of things over the course of my career. I believe that I got in right at the end of what I consider was the kind of the golden age of like the record industry.
Right.
This is the new age, but that to me was the golden age, because first of all, my first album, Lead Better Heights, we recorded that record, and there was no such thing as Pro Tools or recording into computers. We were
Right.
still doing it the old-fashioned way. Everything was done analog to tape.
Right.
And then by the time I did my second album, now enter Pro Tools and this new technology and all this stuff. And then we went from being able to sell records, and I have gold and platinum albums hanging on the wall, millions of records sold, right? But like the reality is today, that's, especially in this genre, is just not it's not a reality anymore
Right.
for people to be able to do that. And people don't buy records by the millions anymore
Right.
either. So Napster and digital downloads and people not buying the whole record anymore. All these things have changed. Now we have AI, which is really coming into the picture. I had no idea how fast this thing had progressed until just a couple of weeks ago, and now I've really been looking into it, and it's incredible and kind of frightening all at the same time. But I mean, it is going to absolutely upend a big part of the industry, just like Napster and digital downloads for music did back in the 90s.
Right.
So that remains to be seen, the full effect of that. But the one thing, I was having a conversation with somebody the other day. It's like AI is really good at mimicking stuff and generating things based on whatever it has consumed. But the one thing that it doesn't actually have is experience. It can write a very generic song, but if you want to create a song that's really going to pull on people's heartstrings, that they're really going to feel, AI, at least as of now, it doesn't have the ability to do that. So that's why it's going to become a tool. It already has, to be honest with you, for a lot of people. And you should look at it as a tool, but not a substitute. Right. And it's going to reach the masses and really to connect with people. Now, if people are okay with accepting mediocre music, which unfortunately it seems like that's the way it's been trending for some time now, because there's not a whole lot of talent required in some of the most popular music today. And if that becomes more and more acceptable, then all bets are off. But if you really want to have an emotional experience, a real connection, a personal connection with what you're listening to, I think the human element is a requirement. And so people need to look at AI as a tool and not a substitute.
I agree. Well, we're certainly excited to have this upcoming tour. And again, folks in the tri-state area can see you. I believe it's in Bergen County, New Jersey. We have some shows down in Long Island and a show as well in Peekskill, celebrating 30 years of Ledbetter Heights. Kenny Wayne Shepherd, thank you so much for joining us on the LMC Cast. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. And that's going to do it for this episode of the LMC Cast. Again, huge thanks to Kenny Wayne Shepherd for stopping by and bring the kind of insight and soul that only he can. I'm your host, Matt Sullivan. If you love this conversation, be sure to like, subscribe, and follow LMC Media for more incredible stories from the artists, creators, and voices shaping our community. Until next time, keep the music loud, keep supporting live arts, and remember, when the blues calls, you answer with a guitar, or at least a good pair of speakers. We'll see you next time on the LMC Cast.
Thank you for listening to the LMC Cast Community Profiles, produced at LMC Media's studio on the Avenue. Visit lmcmedia.org to book your time in this state-of-the-art convenient location, walkable from the Metro North train station on Mamaroneck Avenue. You can also support this nonprofit media center at lmcmedia.org/donate.